there were a couple hands that didn't go up. I was body slammed. Actually, I should tell the backstory for this, because it is kind of interesting to note that it was like how it came about as an act of civil disobedience. And 3 years prior, a group of libertarians went out for a silent dance party at midnight to celebrate Thomas Jefferson's birthday with headphones on. And they were asked to leave the monument, and as one of them was leaving, she was dancing out. See, if I tell a story, I have to dance. So anyway, she was dancing out of the monument, just like.
She won't be the only one dancing at it.
Well, no. This is the one 3 years prior.
Oh.
So she gets arrested, and then there's a back and forth legal battle, and at the end of it, a judge says it's not appropriately reverent enough to be dancing at the Jefferson Memorial. You must bow down to the gods of statism, even Thomas Jefferson, right? And I found out later that he was known as the dancing president. That that he was a big advocate of dancing. That he actually had all these great quotes about how it's great for the health and the vigor of youth, and he would bust out his fiddle at the White House and encourage people to dance. I mean, the irony of government, just it's endless. It really that's a rabbit hole with no bottom. And a couple clever activists, not myself, Jared Denman and Eddie Free, put together the dance party at Thomas Jefferson. Because, they're going to tell us we can't dance here? Well, that's where we're going to dance. And if you've seen the video, it starts with the two women swaying, or the woman and her partner from Code Pink swaying. And the officer who's telling us, you can't dance here, bumps into her as he's backing up. And this really is I think my favorite moment, when the guy in charge is looking at one of the other Parks police officers. By the way, of all the federal agencies that I get to have a vendetta with, it's the United States Park Police. That's embarrassing. I don't want to say any more because I've said too much in all this tour already. I think I might get raided again. But so he looks at these two people just dancing really slow, and he gets this look on his face and points at them, and then points at one of the officers and is like, without even saying arrest them, he just has it written all over his face. He goes, and you can see the officer going to pull them apart. He's like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this. And I got to give credit to Eddie Free for going, challenging what is the legal definition of dancing. Anybody? What would, he's like, okay, so if I'm bobbing my head to the music, is this dancing? What if I get enthusiastic about it, I'm bobbing my head, and I'm really enthusiastically bobbing my head, is this dancing? What if I'm dancing really enthusiastically, but it's totally out of rhythm and out of time with the music at all? Is this okay, that's as much as I'm going to dance tonight. Is this dancing? And so, of course, they got arrested, and then, the famous physical act of me, I was picked up from behind and choked in midair, and then the cop landed with his knee on my ribs. And when I saw the video afterwards, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea ribs were so flexible. It didn't hurt me at all. It just I went all the way down to my spine and bounced out. It was pretty nuts. And we went back a week later with a giant mob, a couple thousand people all dancing. We had a very, very peaceful mosh pit, if you will, kind of going around this great statue of Thomas Jefferson. And I'm very happy to say that this was successful civil disobedience. They changed the policy. You are now allowed to dance at the Jefferson monuments. That wasn't the point. What we wanted to do was reveal the violent nature of government. When government says you can't dance here, it means that if you dance here, this is what's going to happen to you. And thanks to the United States Park Police, we succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. So, I've also been arrested for smoking pot in front of the White House. Oh, hey! Whoa. I get a round of applause just for smoking pot. You guys way too easy of a crowd here. Yeah, a lot of expectations.
Millions of people have smoked
So,
pot.
now, I'm going to come back to that story, and the next one I'm going to tell has a very important lesson about standing up to any bully, but especially on principle when standing up to government. This was, I've also been arrested for not smoking pot in front of Independence Hall in Philadelphia. And yeah, some of you have seen that story as well. This is 420 at Smoke Down Prohibition 5, a series of civil disobedience events led by N.A. Poe and Steve Miller of the Panic Hour that did eventually lead, or at least contribute in a major way, to pot being decrimmed in... Can we make that a word now? Decrim, like a verb? Decrimmed. They decrimmed the hell out of weed in Philadelphia. So it's decriminalized now in the city of Philadelphia, and a lot of it was because of their work in this and keeping up the political pressure related to it. But at this particular event, and at first we were just smoking pot in public, and the cops were watching from a distance. But then we got to like a critical mass of crowds, and we had hundreds of people actually engaging in the civil disobedience, and they had to start cracking down. So I'm on the microphone at 420. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy 420! And light them up. And someone in front of me lights a joint. And park police officer from behind runs past me, bumps into my arm as he's going to arrest this guy. But you know what the charge is for interfering with one of the king's men in the performance of their duties, right? Mm-hmm. Not obstruction. Worse. Assaulting a federal officer. Yeah, some of you knew the answer to that one. So, yeah, because he bumped into me from behind going to arrest somebody else. By the way, at the same event, N.A. Poe was getting arrested for smoking pot, and while he was being arrested, he assaulted a federal officer as well. Oh, I'm so sorry. You okay, Josh? You okay? You're not going to sue me for damages or try to call the police on me for that? Okay.
Put him in a cage.
But, so, N.A. Poe and I got arrested together in this particular case, and when after this guy bumped into me and hauled someone off, I'm still holding the microphone, and I see the guy coming for me now, and I'm thinking, Jefferson Dance Monument, last time, or Jefferson Dance Party, last time I got, so he tries to tackle me from behind and ends up kind of like sitting on my back. And the two cops now grab me by the arms after that and drag me out of there so fast the cord got pulled out of the microphone, and the microphone ended up getting processed with my personal effects. So they put N.A. Poe and I in the same cell, in the solitary confinement wing of the Philadelphia Federal Penitentiary. It's, of course, libertarian audiences. And by the way, feel free to be as smartest as you want tonight. Someone yelled out the other night, "Adam, that's binary confinement." Okay. But the reason they did it, I think, was to torture N.A. Poe, make him sit in a cell with me for a week. This event was on a Saturday. On Tuesday, we went before the judge, the arresting officer, who was the one who just signed the report. He was like on the other side of the park. I got a great public defender, tore up his testimony on the stand, really made a fool out of him. And of course, I still ended up getting sent back to my cell. Same thing with N.A. Poe in his hearing. And on Thursday, they came to us with an offer for a pretrial release. And it's not like bail or bond in Philly. I don't know, it's different in different legal circumstances, but in this case, the pretrial release was more like probation. I was going to have to check in, and I lived in Virginia, so coming up to Philly was a big deal. I was going to have to take P tests. By the way, marijuana saved my life. So, it's, with PTSD, so being able to do that and not have, I'd rather be in jail. And I wasn't going to be allowed to own firearms. So, they came to us with this pretrial release offer on Thursday, and of course, N.A. Poe, he took it right away, just to get away from me. And I went in, I was talking to my lawyer, like, well, wait a second. They're really seriously planning on bringing these charges? Like, there's video everywhere. Like, there's tons of video of this incident. Like, do they really want to keep embarrassing themselves? They have 100 days. I'll be right here. Tell them to shove it. And the next morning, the judge ordered me immediately released and all charges dropped. So that's, come on, more significant than smoking pot.
Even a blind squirrel found in that.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I've made every mistake in the book. I describe my career in activism as having won the lottery 10 times in a row. But if you knew you were going to win the lottery 1 out of 100 times, you'd be playing a lot of lottery tickets too. And for all the greater hits that you've seen, there are a lot of misses in between that you've never heard of and never will. So the cop who's releasing me was the same one who had been on the stand. And he's giving me my personal effects. Here's your wallet, here's your cell phone, here's your microphone. And here are your 2 tickets. And I was like, what? He wanted me to sign these citations, $350 each. I think the first one was some kind of unlawful assembly charge, and the second one was for looking at a federal officer funny. They had to like downgrade it, at least just a little bit. And so I was thinking, well, wait a second. If I don't sign these tickets, the only thing you can do is send me back to that cell. And I'm pretty sure the judge just ordered me released, so you can take your tickets and shove them. Actually, I just said, no, thank you, sir. I'd prefer not to sign those. Because they will arrest you for, being a smartass to a federal officer one way or another. They'll find a charge if they really want to.
Failure to comply.
And, sorry, what's that?
Failure to comply.
Failure to comply, yeah, right. Yeah, so to verbally comply with my talking down to him. So he said, well, just take him anyway. And I was like, okay, well, if I don't sign them, you can't file them, right? He didn't say anything. They've never caught up with me. And, I checked, are they in the legal system? Are they like, is this like going to go as a hit against my credit score or something? Or are they going to put a warrant for my arrest? Nope, they never got processed. And so my trophy picture at the end of that was holding up the microphone and 2 unsigned tickets. Wait, I'm sorry, 2 unsigned tickets and a microphone. That's the closest I'm going to get to rapping tonight. And about the dancing, if you saw me dancing, you know that like nothing that I was doing, legally would qualify as dancing by any definition. But I should say, it's really easy to dance enthusiastically when you have Ice Cube in your headphones telling you, you can do it, put your back into it. It's very encouraging. And the connection between these stories actually comes back to smoking pot in front of the White House when the the booking officer happened to be the same one who had body slammed me at the Jefferson Memorial a few years before. And the conversation started with him telling me about, having seen the Philadelphia arrest. Yeah, if you want to really body slam someone like you got to get low and like get your back into it and picking up. And it ended with me saying, yeah, but you've gained a lot of weight since then. So we had a really fun exchange about that. And you've probably heard of the shotgun incident. I've also been arrested for loading a shotgun at Freedom Plaza, the ironically named Freedom Plaza, 2 blocks from the White House, Independence Day. And that actually led to a raid on my home that was the second time they sent more men after me than Osama bin Laden. The other time was for smoking pot in front of the White House. Anybody else have a problem with that story, by the way, about bin Laden? We suddenly gained so much respect for the culture of Islam that we took his body and
buried him.
Dumped it in the ocean. Yeah, we just dumped it in the ocean before anybody could look at it or get any pictures. Hey, how about that? So when they raided my home, I can't say it was a no-knock raid. It was more like, this is the police, open up. 1, 2, 3, battery ram. And I'm upstairs and asleep, or trying to fall asleep at the time. And I come out, I'm at the top of the stairs in my shorts, just in time to see the door come in. And my dog, 100-pound Pit Dane mix, is going for the door. And you know what happens when cops are confronted by dogs, right? But in this case, we got lucky because I was such a dangerous threat that they had to lead the raid with a flashbang grenade. And I was at the top of the stairs just in time to see it go off under my dog's butt. And that's what saved his life, because it scared him so bad he started running upstairs. I'm there now, I got 3 green laser sights pointed at my chest. I'm going, Baloo, bed, bed, bed. And he ran to his crate, and that's what saved him. This led to me doing 4 months in jail, 2 in solitary confinement, but don't feel bad for me. I thoroughly enjoyed my government-induced, taxpayer-funded spiritual retreat. Had a lot of time to catch up on reading and yoga and meditation, and got to make a lot of friends. And while I was there, people sent me a lot of books. I got every best libertarian manifesto, every attempt to convey this message in book form. Rothbard, Mises, Hayek, Spooner, Konkin, Molyneux, Woods, DiLorenzo, Rose, Paul Sr., Berglund, I know I'm forgetting Bastiat, I know I'm forgetting somebody's favorites. Thoreau, I got civil disobedience while I was in jail.
Hoppe?
I didn't get Hoppe, but he's definitely on that list.
John Stuart Mill.
Definitely on that list. So with all of these great books in hand, I decided that I would be the best rip-off artist the freedom movement has ever known. I took all of the best features of these books, all of their strengths, none of their weaknesses, and combined them into one easy-to-read book. It's 100 pages. It's free in every digital format possible. It's a free audio book. It's just 3 hours long. And it's got no opinion, no conjecture, no wishful thinking, no judgment, and entirely in line with the principles of nonviolent communication. Are there any fans of nonviolent communication here? I always love asking libertarian audiences. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. For those of you that don't know, you'll hopefully appreciate my enthusiasm by the end of this story. Have any of you seen my video, Would-Be Bully Gets Kokesh, Nonviolent Communication in Action? A few hands nodding. Okay, yeah, heads nodding. Thank you. So this was on the tour last year, down the Freedom Funnel. On the tour last year, we were in the basement of a bar in Trenton, New Jersey, where all the kindest, nicest, most polite people in the country come from. And I had this line in my speech, something like, "It's inconceivable," and yes, I know what that word means. Thank you. Some of you got that. It's inconceivable that in this day and age we're still doing this militarism thing where we dress up millions of gullible young men in silly costumes to have them meet in the middle of a field where none of them live to kill each other because they're wearing different colors. So this guy upstairs who's an Army combat veteran hears the, I don't know, maybe secondhand version of this line. And you got to bear with me because every time I tell this story, the guy gets a little bit bigger. But he comes charging down the stairs after my talk, and he's got his crew with him, his hold me back guys. But I was scared. I mean, this guy's like a head taller than me, about 240, and people see the video and they're like, "No way, Adam, that guy was like 300 pounds." And I'm like, I'm not a small dude, but he did make me look tiny in comparison. I'll give you that if you want to watch and judge his weight.
They call tiny.
What's that?
He's the type of dude they call
tiny. Yeah, right,
tiny.
yeah, it's so big it's ironic. I mean, the guy's like a juggernaut. I mean, he was not just like a tall guy. I mean, he was a bowling ball of muscle, and he comes down the stairs. "If you have something bad to say about the military, we need to talk outside now." And his face was just like that, too. And I'm thinking, well, I got an event in New York tomorrow. I really don't want to get in trouble for smearing this guy all over the sidewalk with my Marine Corps martial arts skills. Yeah, that's for you. And, okay, so I'm thinking nonviolent communication. For those of you that don't know nonviolent communication, it's a beautiful methodology of communicating in a way that eliminates the emotional manipulation from a conversation. There's some other parts to it about eliminating judgment so that you're not accusing people of things when you don't intend to, that you're speaking from your heart compassionately rather than trying to get a result or manipulate them, at least in the conversation itself, right? And the process, very simple, 3 steps: feelings, needs, requests. You can walk someone else through that if they're upset. You can walk yourself through that if you're having trouble communicating with someone. Hey, this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling bad, or I'm feeling in some way insufficient because this need of mine isn't getting met. Therefore, I request for you to help meet my need with whatever X is that I'm asking for. And so you're not trying, it becomes very clear to someone that you're not asking for something for nothing. You're not trying to manipulate them. And for a lot of people, if you can walk them through this, it makes it a lot easier for them to get to what they're really asking for out of you. And you tell this to libertarians a lot of times. They go, "Well, nonviolent communication, it's communication. Of course it's nonviolent. Screw you." That's part of the problem. That's what we're working on here. Obviously, it's a metaphor. You guys can, open your minds to think metaphorically, right? So, again, this guy comes down the stairs. "If you have something bad to say about the military, we need to talk outside now." So I put my hands in my pockets and I gulp a little bit, and I'm thinking, feelings, needs, requests. Okay. "Wow, you sound angry. Are you angry?" "Yeah, I'm angry!" "Wow, that doesn't feel very good. You must not feel very good, do you?" "No!" I don't think his face looked that funny. As long as we're on video, I hope we get to meet this guy in a few days. We're going through New Jersey on the tour. So Uh, when you acknowledge someone's feelings like that, it makes it very difficult for them to stay angry with you. So we started having this positive exchange, or I should say, well, you're a veteran. Well, how much combat did you do, and all that. Eventually, I was able to sort of get to his needs of like, and you don't have to use that corny language every time, but this is what I'm thinking, right? What part of his psyche, his sense of identity, was challenged by this, right? You know, what part of his ego is threatened by my intellectual criticism of the military? And then I was able to find a little common ground. Hey, you were lied to, weren't you? Were you lied to by your recruiters? Oh yeah, I was lied to by them. Oh, were you lied to about the reasons we went to war? Oh yeah, that was bullshit. So does it bother you that you saw buddies die for lies? It doesn't bother you at all that you don't want to do anything about that? Because that bothers me. You know, this is just part of my thought process. You can watch the video and see that it's actually a little more calm and polite than this. And my favorite moment is when the dude looks over his shoulder and sees that everybody who's with me is recording this on their cell phones. His eyes get really, and then his posture kind of gets out of that like I'm about to beat your ass pose and kind of calms down. And we're able to have a positive exchange about this where I said, well, shouldn't you at least consider why your buddies died based on lies? Shouldn't you be looking into that? And he was like, well, I can appreciate where you're coming from. I have no problem with you, but I'm not going to take your book. And you know, it was only when I had him off camera afterwards. And I think it goes without saying in the process of nonviolent communication, don't try to record the person, you know, while you're trying to communicate with them, right? Or put them on the spot like that. So when I got him upstairs, I was able to say, look, you know, I can't fault you for being lied to. I can't fault you for even avoiding this or not knowing this. But now that you have the truth in front of you, it is cowardly to run from that. And he ended up taking a book and a sticker. So that's the power of nonviolent communication as a way of communicating this message, as opposed to arguing with people, of course. So one of the things I always forget to tell people about this book is that it's banned in U.S. jails.
I just heard that.
And I'm kind of hoping it means that I'm banned in U.S. jails too. I don't think it works that way. It's a short book. I could get like the entire text tattooed all over my body, but then they just put me in solitary again, right? So we've sent this to jail a few times, or people have asked for it to be sent to people who they know who are in jail as inmates, and it's never gotten through except when we've had fans who are jail employees actually smuggle it in and hand it directly to inmates. And when it does get in, they end up with waiting lists for who's going to read it next inside the cover. But finally, we got an actual rejection letter when we sent it to a jail, federal prison, I believe, in Illinois, from the warden. And this came back, this letter. I'm so proud of this. It's on United States Department of Justice letterhead. And they have to say what part of the book is a problem, or the publication. And there's nothing in here about making weapons. You know, there's nothing in here about how to escape from prison. So, just mentally. And so the letter said that the entire publication was a threat to the good order, security, and discipline of the institution. So thank you, United States Department of Justice, for the best endorsement I could have possibly hoped for. Better than I could have even imagined. So about this book now being written for this particular purpose. If you're already on board, maybe I don't even need you to read this, but I want you to understand what it represents as a tool now that it exists, that you have this opportunity. So I'm going to start by putting you guys all on the spot here. How many of you can honestly say that you have made a full-fledged effort to share this message with just everyone in your immediate family? Not bad, not bad. Pretty close to typical, a little about a quarter of the room, a little less. But why isn't that everybody? Do you think your mom's going to love you any less because you're one of those crazy libertarians now? And if you're arguing and debating, it's going to be a lot harder. It's going to be really discouraging. But I want to show you something right now, really quick, about how easy it should be if you do it right, and what it can be using this as a tool. So the first 9 pages of this book sums up the philosophy. And that's really all it takes, right? Is just to get someone to plant the seed, to get someone to start descending, that you raise that cognitive dissonance. They don't have to agree with you on everything. You don't have to argue with someone and say you have to adopt my position. But what I found is more helpful is when you can just evoke enough cognitive dissonance and show them that there's a way out that resolves that. So mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, cousin, niece, nephew, whoever you are, I love you, you love me. This is something really important to me. And I would really appreciate it if you could just take 15 minutes to consider this. I got you a book. If you would just read the 9 pages, the first 9 pages, it sums it up. We can talk about this. I would really appreciate it if you just take, oh, you don't have time? Oh, that's okay. I'll read it to you while you're working. How about that? Oh, but even better, we'll have Adam read it to us with the free audiobook in the car today. How about that? Can you give me 15 minutes to consider something that's important to me? He's nodding because I paid him to do that. If you ever get no to that question, you probably need to reconsider those relationships. Can you imagine someone really turning you down when you go at it like that? When you say, like, look, this is something that I care about, that it would mean a lot to me if you would just take the time to consider and understand. And I've made it easy for you. This is the easiest way I found. Here it is, 9 pages, 15 minutes. Can you just check this out? So it's a lot easier than arguing with people, obviously. And I want to issue you guys a challenge tonight, and it's to read the book. Although, like, that's not supposed to be the challenge. You got to twist people's arms to get them to read a book sometimes, right? But share it with someone. And decide for yourself whether or not that's the easiest way for you to wake someone else up. And if it's not, find what is for yourself and do that. Because as far as some of these people, growing the movement out into the next concentric circle, I know that this is a critical tool right now. But it gets easier as we go. At some point, someone who reads this might come up with a 3-minute YouTube video that wakes up the next circle of people who don't need this much thought to go into it. But when you share the message in a way that wakes people up, that wins converts, because you send them down this freedom funnel, that's what's going to result in you getting the kind of appreciation that I get now that keeps me going. And I want you all to have that. And part of it is that, if I may go back, I know Van wants me to end quickly so we have time to sign books and get out to the trailer tonight. But, it really is important for me to stay humble in this because, well, for one, it took me 10 years. It took me 10 years to go from libertarian in name only to understanding what it really meant. And during that time, I pissed a lot of people off. I did a lot of unproductive things. And I've always been compelled by this, though. And believe that this is the most important thing in the world. The single most important thing that we can do for humanity right now is to help this evolution past statism happen as rapidly as possible, because every day less of the state means a day less of war, of the police state, of the ripoff of taxation, of all of the suffering and loss of human life and happiness that goes along with government. And I beat myself up over this every day. And every time I fail at something, I feel like, oh shit, someone might die because I screwed up today, because I didn't wake up that one extra person that I could have reached today. And the more I share this burden, the lighter it gets. But it's driven me nuts the last few years since I've gotten onto it this way. And I want everybody to get this. And I think a lot of people, when they wake up to this perspective, they feel that too, right? Like, oh, we got to get everybody. Why doesn't everybody understand this? Why can't everybody just get ethics? Why can't we? And a lot of you, and you've seen activists. You've been around. You've seen people who get excited, who come in with this, and then get burned out, right? And I don't want any of you to ever get burned out again. I want you to be the best evangelicals for this message that you can be, so that someday, within our lifetimes, hopefully in the next decade or two, we can actually begin the process of dismantling government, and then I can retire and go back to pretending like I know how to play the guitar and other fun stuff like that. This burden is something that you can't help but get when you see the potential of this message, and you have to then take it and make sure that it takes over your life in a beautiful, positive way. And again, to what you said earlier in introducing me, Josh, I see the line of Zen-centeredness, of perfect activism, and I'm still, just trying to hold that line. But the more people that embrace that, we get to move forward together and wake people up with that. So there's something in here that I was a little bit apprehensive about including, but I'm very encouraged now that there has not been any objection to this. It's chapter 9, personal freedom, and it's because it's not typically included in libertarian canon. And it's really unfortunate. I mean, obviously, we talk a lot about like work freedom, getting out of the military, being conscientious about, what you're putting your labor into, right? We talk about health freedom, and I think it's really beautiful to see that there's a lot of, fitness enthusiasm in the freedom movement when you take charge of your life, when you claim that and say, like, I'm not going to just do what I'm told, I'm not going to eat what I'm told, I'm not going to take the pills that I'm prescribed. Well, maybe you should be. But I'm not just going to turn to mainstream pharmaceuticals. You see, how much alternative medicine is embraced in this movement just because you question the authority of the FDA, right? And there's a deeper part of this, though, that to me is even more important, that really is the source of that, and it's definitely not spoken about enough. And it's the flip side of the emotional manipulation of propaganda that wants you to be afraid and beaten down and feel dependent on government, or the emotional manipulation that you NDC fans would know can come in a personal relationship, right? Can come from any authority figure. But if that's how they manipulate us emotionally, the flip side of that, you have to ask, what would it mean to be impervious to that kind of manipulation? And this is what's so important about getting freedom at a deeper level for yourself. So when you can identify that and say, wow, my state of mind is being affected by external forces. All right, here's the super pop quiz for all the NVC fans in here. Who's responsible for your feelings?
Me, myself,
I
and
am.
I.
Right. And when you claim that emotional freedom, you gain the power to choose your demeanor at all times, to choose your mood, your outlook, your attitude. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, that's a false process. That in order for it to work that way, happiness has to be something that you can pursue and chase down and beat over the head with a club and drag home to your cave to enjoy forever and ever. But that's not what happiness is. It is a choice that you make in the moment. And when you embrace emotional freedom, you get to choose to be happy whenever you want. So, in case you're wondering, one more selling point for sharing this book. Yes, I included The Secret of Happiness. You get to share that with people now. It also comes from applying nonviolent communication to your internal dialogue as well. So, about this, though, living differently, there's so many other ways it's manifests in the movement, right? From open carrying, taking responsibility for your own security, whatever the case may be, in your diet, growing your own food, seeking that kind of independence in your community. So for me, what I'm doing right now is actually my most righteous and just and significant act of civil disobedience I've ever done. I'm building a house without a permit. Yes, thank you. It's harder than smoking pot. I should get more applause for this. I can smoke pot all day. Building a house? Well, I don't know. I bought a 10-acre piece of land in Arizona, about an hour west of Flagstaff, and I'm already getting harassed by the county about this for camping on my own land. Yeah, more than 10 days in a row or 30 cumulative days in a year is a $750 a day fine for each violation. I don't know if it's like per person, per vehicle, per tent, per dog, but they've got me for 26 different violations now, including grading without a permit, like moving dirt without the government's permission, right? And every day that I don't return it back to its perfectly natural state, $750 a day fine. So if you can imagine the lying extortionist David Williams sitting in the Yavapai County zoning office going, and then we're going to fine them for $1 million. That's going to pay all of our salaries. So we had a call flood on. If any of you called a couple months ago when we were asking for that, thank you so much. In this case, it was one of those times when it did make a significant difference. They started to back off and said that they want a resolution without a hearing, and they postponed the hearing. I'm hosting a civil disobedience build party, November 4 to 13. I know Arizona's a bit of a drive from here, but if any of you want to come out, come talk to me afterwards. It'll be a lot of fun. and then the day after is our scheduled hearing. So by then at least we'll have one extra measure of resolution in this. And by the way, the land that I bought did not connect to any existing roads. So you know what I did? I built a road. That was also more difficult than smoking pot, by the way. So I get to name this road now. I have some top choices, but I'm open to suggestions. The first one was Freeway. Government Freeway. But I think the best so far, I'd love to see this on a street sign, Ma Road. Yeah? And there's a great community there. For me, it was like, making a leap to this different lifestyle. And I want to encourage other people to do this, to live. And it's not like, to live by the values of freedom, you have to live how I'm living. But obviously, if you're still stuck in a mainstream lifestyle of a slave job where you're paying taxes and you're paying rent and you're commuting and paying tolls around here, right? Yeah. Obviously, there's a way to live that's more conscientious, that's more in line with these values. So we've been encouraging people to move out there. We've got a few families already there that have bought property that are in the process of moving out there. And when I got there, I got a welcome to the neighborhood gift of 6 chickens and a rooster and a mating set of 3 turkeys. So if any of you end up deciding to move out to the wonderful community of Juniper Wood Ranch in Arizona, I'm happy to tell you, I'll hook you up with the same poultry starter pack that I got as a welcome to the neighborhood. So think about that. Now the other part that's in this book that I was a little apprehensive about including is the how we get from here to there. And again, I don't claim credit for any of the ideas in this book, but the concept of localization sums it up for me. And it's the process of decentralizing power that starts from the ground up with this paradigm shift that's happening right now. It continues with people living differently as a result of this understanding. It grows as we create the institutions in our communities to render government less relevant in our lives, whether it's mutual support or food co-ops or whatever the case may be. And then the consensus process of being able to take government apart from the top down, of decentralizing, localizing that power in a way that doesn't pull the rug out from underneath anyone. And the great part about this is if we're applying these principles that are righteous and just, they should make people's lives immediately better right away. So if you eliminate the federal government, you can then eliminate the state governments and the county governments. You get down to the local level and transition to the nonviolent systems at the community level that actually completely displace government. But it doesn't matter if you're a liberal, you're a conservative. I can't convince you that you're a free human being who owns yourself and you shouldn't be governed by anyone. Well, fine, you need to be governed. Would you rather be governed locally or by someone, as Reagan said, in a far-off capital, right? So, this is an exploratory tour for Kokesh 2020. We're thinking maybe Kokesh 2020, he built a road. But as long as the support continues to build, as long as people continue waking up, as long as we keep signing people up at every stop along the way on this tour, I am running for president in 2020. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I take it back. I'm running for not president in 20, that is on the platform of the immediate dissolution of the entire United States federal government. Okay, I know we're in a library, but I'm pretty sure we can muster a little more enthusiasm than that, so on the platform of the immediate dissolution of the entire United States federal government! Now, I know you can tell we're getting a really long running head start on this campaign because we need it. And even despite that, I'm happy to be able to tell you right now that I'm going to be the best candidate in 2020, bar none, because I can guarantee to you today that I am going to be, by far, the most humble. Wait. Some of you don't believe me? I'm pretty sure I can prove it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I can prove it. I'm going to be the only candidate running in 2020 who will tell you unequivocally, undoubtedly, certainly, I am completely unfit and disqualified from ever being your president. Okay, some of you are still skeptical. So for you, I have a list of my disqualifications. First of all, if you haven't noticed, presidents have not been allowed to have beards for the last 100 years because you're not allowed to trust anyone with a beard. But I will say, as long as we have a couple good ones in the room, this movement has by far the best facial hair of any political movement in America today. But libertarian beards aren't going to do it, I know. Next disqualification, I inhaled. And I enjoyed it. I'm a felon. Multiple convicted felon. Does not disqualify me from running for this office, but it does disqualify me from voting in my home state of Arizona. I have tattoos. And not even good ones. I have tattoos of reckless youthful indiscretion. Believe it or not, I have a government agency's initials tattooed on my arm. USMC does not stand for Utah State Marble Champions, as much as I wish it did. I have PTSD. I'm the last person who should have his finger anywhere near the red button. But in case you're wondering how this is going to work, it really doesn't matter. When I say I'm running for not president, I mean it very, very specifically in terms of the platform. I'm going to go into the White House long enough to sign one executive order that begins the administrative process of abolishing the federal government. Then I'm going to go down to the kitchen, steal all the ice cream, and quit and go get a real job. So effectively, the very first thing we are doing is cutting the cord to the red button. No more armed nuclear weapons pointed at our fellow human beings. We can start it here in America. I tortured people, as I said earlier, although considering our current president has killed more children with drone strikes than all other Nobel Peace Prize winners put together, this might be a prerequisite for the job at this point. I live in a trailer. It's out there. You can see it. I started this when I was it's my perfect tiny home on the road. And really, you got to give Van a round of applause because he lives in it too now. At the end, when I started the last tour, and I was going to be on the road for 6 months, I was like, I'm not going to keep paying rent. But then at the end of it, I was like, wait, why would I go back to paying rent? So I'm living in the RV trailer on my land while I'm building my home. And after this, we always go as soon as everybody's got signed books, we go out to the trailer. You're welcome to sign the trailer. On the last tour, we invited people to sign the ceiling. Now there's signatures everywhere because that's what you get when you try to tell anarchists what to do. Finally, I'm terrible at relationships. You can ask any of my exes. They would be more than happy to tell you. I'm just grateful they found out they were too good for me in time. However, every woman I've ever dated was a libertarian by the time she broke up with me. You see the strategy really developing now, right? You just have to help me date every status in America. It won't take that long. I promise they'll get sick of me really fast. But aside from the fact that I built a road, the one thing I have going for me is my humility. Yeah. In fact, I'm so overflowing with humility. I have so much to share and go around that I can tell you today on behalf of anybody else who might be running for president in 2020, that because you are a free, beautiful, independent human being, and you own yourself and should not be governed, ruled, or presided over by anyone, they all are also completely unfit and disqualified from ever being your president. So, I have another list here of all of the benefits of abolishing the federal government. I don't know where to start. Just kidding, it's all blank pages. But I have some highlights here. Before I get to that, though, I'm sorry, that's why I have my notes. There's one objection that you get typically to this proposition, or even the proposition of a free society or a stateless society, and it's, don't we need the government to protect us with the military? And there's some good news and some bad news about that. Everything you've been told is a lie. That's the good news and the bad news. In this case, the idea that having a military makes you safer is a lie. We have been fooled into thinking that wars are fought between countries, and it's not true. Wars are conducted by governments using violence to expand their protection rackets. And when you say, yes, government, please tax me, please rule me, please govern me. Oh, as an American citizen, yeah, let me work for the government half the year and protect me with your monopoly services. Well, guess what? That makes you a really juicy target for someone else who might want to invade. And invade and take over and do what? Govern you? Like you're being governed now? Do you know how long it would take a foreign government to come in and rule you so effectively that you're working for them half the year? Well, gee, it might take a couple hundred years. How about that? The founders of this country were against a standing army because they knew that the legitimate free market defense was the militia, and that the military was the corrupt, statist, monopoly version of that. And it's subject to all of the consequences of any monopoly: worse services, insufficient services, inadequate services, and a disconnect from the people being served. Having a military makes us less safe. And if you care about this from a purely tactical perspective, if you don't see that a more peaceful world is possible as we eliminate government anyway, you know that tactically speaking, a guerrilla militia defense is going to be more effective than lining people up in costumes and making it really easy to kill them. You want a loss of less life? This is the answer. You want less of our guys to die and more of their guys proportionally? This is your more effective defense. China, you want to roll your tanks down our streets? Let's hope your soldiers will shop at our stores and dine at our fine restaurants. But the minute you send a tax collector to my door, you're going to get a different story. Imagine, you could tell the average American today